What's going on, YouTube? So luxury is not just about ultimate poshness, but also about ultimate capability. And the Lexus LX has long been the Lexus to deliver that. And Lexus just extensively refreshed the LX last year, and we get even more updates for 2026. So, is this the ultimate luxury tank to put in your driveway? Well, let's go ahead and find out. Let's start out under the hood with a quick spec dump. You can get a couple different powertrains on this new LX. We've got the 700H today, which is a 3.4-liter twin-turbo V6 engine with your electric hybrid componentry for 457 horsepower. It's paired to a 10-speed automatic transmission. Of course, you have a four-wheel drive system on board, and the combined fuel economy is 20 mpg.
Now, the base price of the LX is $108,000, and if you're looking to buy one or any vehicle, we'd encourage you to check out carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price. Now, of course, we'll take it out for a spin to show you what the hybrid powertrain is all about, but first we need to take a look at the exterior and the very luxurious cabin.
Now, when it comes to the exterior design of this flagship luxury SUV, you certainly want an imposing look, and the LX has always had that, even more so with the refresh it had last year that changed some of the design elements overall. Now, of course, you've got that signature Lexus spindle grille up here in the front. You have models like the F Sport for the most aggressive look, and new for 2026, it has an F Sport appearance package, which gives you even more aggressive elements all throughout the exterior. Now, what you're looking at today, though, is the Overtrail version. This is the one that's going to give you the most capability in the lineup. It was a new addition last year. It's got the gray finish to the spindle grille. Also, as we come down to the lower parts, you're going to have things like underbody protection. And when you go into the highest setting with your height adjustable suspension, you can add up to 4.5 additional inches of clearance to the standard 8.9 inches of clearance. Now, as we move up here to our headlights, of course, these have got the signature triple beam LED headlights for the Lexus brand, including your arrowhead daytime running light and turn signal indicator, plus you have fog lights down here below. As we walk around to the back, it continues with a pretty sophisticated and classy look.
Yeah, and let's break down some of the individual design touches. We have the spoiler up here at the top. The wiper is exposed. I kind of wish they had integrated that in. And as far as our branding, it's going to be fully blacked out, which looks really good on this black model. Our taillights are also going to be very premium. So we have the LED brake light, LED amber turn signal, and an LED reverse light. That's going to be integrated down here in the lower bumper. And then as we drop down to the lower fascia, a little bit of gray finish to this. And the tow rating is 8,000 pounds for both the hybrid and the gas option.
Moving on to the wheels next, you have some choices between 18 and 22-inch alloys. If you get the Overtrail version, you're going to get the 18-inch kind of matte gray finish for your wheel options. And then more important is you're going to be wrapped in all-terrain tires. So that, of course, supports that luxury of capability for, if you need to do a little off-roading on your way to your ski cabin or something like that. Now, coming up here to our mirrors, these are fully loaded as you'd expect for the Lexus brand, including auto-dimming.
Now at this side, this is a very big SUV coming in at 200.6 inches in overall length, so it is very large. And as far as design touches, you have the blacked out window surrounds, you have the roof rails up here at the top, and new to the Overtrail for 2026 is you have a manganese luster paint color, so that's a pretty cool looking option. Now when it comes to your safety systems, you get every single one of those active safety features as standard equipment, and it was updated to the latest and greatest safety suite last year. But guys, we need to talk about the luxurious cabin. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we've reviewed over 2,000 cars at every price point.
And if you want to know about all the latest and greatest rides, then make sure to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the newest cars. All right, now on to the flagship interior, but first, here's the key fob. Typical Lexus key fob with your smart entry system. Grab behind the handle, that will unlock the door. Now this vehicle does not have power deploying running boards, so compared to something like the GX where that is available, keep that in mind. But let's take a look inside this interior. I want to start by talking about the seats, of course. That's really where the beginning of luxury starts. And what you're going to have is a standard real leather seat. However, most of the trims, including the Overtrail, come with the enhanced semi-aniline leather seats. So these are, some of the nicest grades of leather that you can get. Really, really soft and supple. Absolutely feels fantastic to the touch. We've just got the standard black, kind of matching with the exterior, but you can also get a special stone brown on this trim as well. Moving down to the controls, you can see they're finished in a beautiful metal. We've got 14 ways of adjustment with 4-way lumbar support, as well as a power thigh extension. Of course, you also have massage on the vast majority of models, plus memory seats located right up there. Well, let's go ahead and climb inside. Closing up the doors, does have the soft close function, and let's look at the rest of the cabin materials beyond the seats. So over here on the door trim, we have leather over most surfaces, including this handle with the stitching detail. It is soft touch plastic at the very top, and then we have a beautiful open pore wood through the center section. Moving to the upper dashboard, this is a soft touch plastic with stitching details. We have leather through the center section with more stitching details, and then down here on your lower panels, of course, leather and beautiful open pore wood cover most of those surfaces. Now we'll fire it up with a push button start that's located up here, kind of inside of the screen housing. With the vehicle all fired up, this is a good time for the rundown of all the features that you get on board. We'll start with the gauge cluster. 12.3-inch full digital cluster. Like many other Lexus products, you can reconfigure it to a few different types of designs. We also have a head-up display across the LX lineup. Pulling back to the steering wheel, we've got that typical Lexus design, leather wrapped with the double stitching detail. You have paddle shifters behind it there. You also have your rain sensing wipers, and you have power tilt and telescoping along with heating in multiple stages for the steering wheel. Turning over here to our storage, the console opens up in both directions, and inside you'll see a little bit of a smaller storage area, and that's because we have the cool box. That's not standard on every LX, but most of them do have it, including every 700H. That means you can use this as a refrigerating system, basically, inside of there to keep your beverages and stuff like that cold. That does reduce your space, but it's still plenty of space in the end of the day because you have a dozen donuts inside, so it passes the donut test even with the cool box. Now you got your wireless phone charging pad right there, 2 cup holders off to the side, and more storage up here in the front. No pass-through or anything like that, though. Taking a look at the shifter, there's actually going to be 2 different styles of shifter on the LX. You get a traditional one with a non-hybrid, or you get this electronic style with a hybrid. Pull back for drive, do the opposite maneuver if you want to go into reverse, and there's your standard 360-degree camera system. As you can see, nice overhead view as well as active trajectory. And of course, with the Overtrail, you can also activate this and use it as a trail camera system. Press that P there for park. There's your electronic parking brake with your brake hold. Now you'll notice all throughout the cabin, starting right in this area, there's a lot of different controls for various off-road functions. Obviously, this SUV is extremely capable. It is based on the Land Cruiser model, and it will be able to tackle all those different types of obstacles. Here's where you can adjust your suspension height as well as your center locking diff. And again, there's a lot more things through here. You can see you've got your things like crawl control, 4-wheel drive settings, and your different modes that you can select all right there. Before I pass it up, though, I do want to mention down below those knobs, you have your buttons for your heated and ventilated seats, both of which are standard equipment, and you also see that they're automatic, as well as the steering wheel. That all goes into the Climate Concierge system. So when you activate that, it's going to just be able to tinker all of those things individually to keep you at the perfect temperature overall. Now, if you want to adjust the temperature itself, you have a 4-zone automatic system. So most likely that's going to be each person kind of having their own zone, and you can adjust that up and down with these very nice physical controls. You have a little bit of stuff up here in the touchscreen, including the fan speed adjustment. This is about 7 inches, but really the primary function of this touchscreen is to give you stuff with your off-roading. So you can see right, with this screen, you've got a lot of different functions where you can see how the power is being distributed, what types of drive modes and stuff you're in at a glance, so it's nice and easy. But you can also press that and have that pop into a bigger menu just for the climate controls. Now, continuing with the mostly analog controls in this vehicle, we have a volume knob for the audio system. We've got the available 25-speaker Mark Levinson sound system, and let's go ahead and fire that up, hear what it sounds like. Overall quality is pretty good. It definitely fills up the cabin nicely, and it has a good balanced sound quality like other Mark Levinson sound systems. All right, let's take a look at the technology. So this has the pop-up style display. As you can see, it's 12.3 inches, and it does have the latest Lexus infotainment system. Overall, very simple and easy to use. You have your built-in navigation system, which you can, activate once you buy the vehicle. And you also have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. As you rise above, you have your auto-dimming mirror, HomeLink universal remotes, and this is also a digital camera rearview mirror to cut out all those rear obstructions. LED lighting, which Mason bumped his head into and turned on earlier. And then we can take a look at that sunshade there. This is a standard size sunroof, so that's something to keep in mind. If you want a panoramic sunroof, you will need to get the less expensive Lexus GX instead.
But what about the rear seat area? Let's go ahead and dive in by talking about the space first and foremost. So 36.6 inches of legroom is what you can expect, 38.9 inches of headroom. Those are both going to be on the smaller side for this full-size segment, that's for sure, compared to something like an Escalade or a QX80 that is definitely going to be smaller. However, it's still plenty of space. I'm 5'9" for reference. This seat is adjusted to Drew, who's 5'8". I brought along the official Car Confections ruler so I can get a knee room figure for you, and we're sitting at right at 7 inches of additional knee space. My feet can partially slide up underneath of the seats. Now, speaking of the seats, these are really, really comfortable seats back here. Also, they have the ability to recline a decent distance. Just be aware they do not actually slide forward or back. These are fixed position seats. Now, if we fold down the center armrest inside of here, you'll find 2 pop-out cup holders. It's a really comfy armrest. And as far as features, we're not done yet because, of course, we have our rear vents that are located right here. We also have our own zone of climate for each rear passenger. So, yes, it is 4 zones. That's pretty nice for this luxury segment. Also, that's really nice is the fact that you have both heated and ventilated second row seats, and those are actually standard equipment on every LX. Down below there, we have our 2 USB ports hidden underneath of that cover. There's quite a bit of a center tunnel. And then over here on the door trim, standard rear window sunshades on all 700Hs. And then the door trim itself is very nicely done. Lots of premium materials, the beautiful speaker grills, and then you also have a bit of storage down in the bottom. But let's check out the third row as well. In order to get back here, you just press that little lever. That's going to pop the seat out of place and allow it to kind of fold up. Just be aware, if you had a car seat installed, that would not work at all. So I kind of would prefer the tilting mechanism. And hopping back here into the third row itself, what we're looking at is about 31 inches of legroom and 35 inches of headroom. Now, those figures are going to be definitely on the smaller side compared to a lot of the main full-size flagships that you could be looking at, like an Escalade, QX80, Lincoln Navigator. All of those are going to have much, much nicer third rows. That's not the focus of this vehicle. This vehicle is very off-road focused, so you do pay the price for that here in the third row because, yeah, it's not all that comfortable. Also, the thigh support is going to be really, really bad. Now, as far as features, though, Lexus makes it a little bit better by giving you 2 cup holders. You also have a USB port on each side, and then these buttons right here will allow you to recline the seat, which gives you a little bit more comfort, honestly. So, yeah, that definitely helps things out, and you also have vents right up here in the ceiling. As far as how it rates on our third row rating scale, I'm going to say this is fit for the in-laws. Now, walking up to the tailgate, of course, you have a hands-free Power One standard across the board. And let's talk about cargo capacity, because you might be shocked to, learn how big this car is on the outside and see how much cargo space you have on the inside, because it's not going to be a lot. So it's around 7 cubic feet of space behind the third row of seats. Now, if I fold those third row seats down, you get about 44 cubic feet of space, and as a maximum with every seat folded in this interior, that's going to give you 64 cubic feet of space. Those are really small numbers for the segment. Once more, just like I was explaining in the third row, this is an off-road focused vehicle, so they did have to make some practicality sacrifices for that in the third row and in the cargo space. Now, speaking of a lot of those rivals that I was mentioning earlier, check out carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. We've looked at all the flagship full-size SUVs and ranked them in individual categories like cargo space, third row, interior luxury, technology, powertrain choices, and of course off-road capability as well. And you can really sort the list to see the best options in each of those categories depending on what matters most to you. Now, over here on the side, you do have the button to power fold the third row down. As you can see, it takes a little bit of time, and you do have to actually press and hold the button, and then there are not any handles to fold the second row, so I will have to go up and do it manually. And now that I've done that, let's get our cargo length, width, and height figure. So as far as cargo length, that's going to be pretty impressive for this, coming in at 79 inches. From behind the second row, keep in mind it is fixed position, 43 inches. And then from behind the third row, only a little less than a foot, 11 inches of length. As far as the opening, that comes in at 51 inches, so that's very wide. And then the height is coming in not very good either, about 27 inches, because if you pay attention, of course, these third row seats do not fold into the floor. So that, of course, does mean that you have this little lip right here, and they kind of have built in a shelf to make that a little bit better. Now you have a household outlet over here, and then you also have a full-size spare tire integrated underneath of the bumper. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel of the 2026 Lexus LX. In this test drive, we're going to be discussing quite a lot, as you can see on the screen right now. But first, we need to start with a hard acceleration.
All right, and as quick as that, you're up to 60 miles an hour with the LX. So, like I mentioned at the very beginning, there's two different powertrains that this is sold with. Last year brought the introduction of the 700H. So, as the name kind of implies, this is a more powerful system. It's also a hybrid system. So it just kind of adds to the standard 3.4-liter twin turbocharged V6 engine, puts all that hybrid componentry on, adds to 457 horsepower and 583 pound-feet of torque. So you've got a lot of power on board, even though this is obviously a very large SUV, pretty hefty as well. It accelerates up to 60 miles an hour in just a little over 6 seconds.
Yeah, that's pretty good acceleration. You could see that swiftness as we accelerated there. So certainly pretty satisfactory. Now, the regular powertrain is going to have 409 horsepower, 479 pound-feet of torque, so that's not a weakling or anything like that. However, it is, definitely an upgrade to get this hybrid system, and when it comes to 0 to 60, it's 6.4 versus 6.9 seconds.
It really is just so buttery smooth with the acceleration, and very quiet as well. Now, another thing that's buttery smooth is the 10-speed automatic transmission. These shifts are really imperceptible, honestly. It just kind of goes through the gears. You don't feel a thing, and of course, it can drop multiple gears if you put your foot down.
Yeah, and as far as how power is routed to the ground, this is an LX. After all, full-time four-wheel drive is standard equipment on all models, and not only that, you have a front locking diff, a rear locking diff, and a center locking diff on this Overtrail. So really off-road capable. And speaking of that off-road capability, if you'd like to check that out, we did actually have the privilege of taking this 700H Overtrail off-roading pretty extensively in California. You can find that on our channel in our other Lexus LX review if you'd like to check that out. Now, I went ahead and toggled us to fan speed 1. The rear climate is off so we can get our sound level reading and see how quiet this flagship is. 55.2 decibels is what we had settled in at before we got to the little bit of the rougher part of the road. Now, we don't have to sit here and guess how it compares to other flagships. We can find that at carconfections.com/sound level readings and see just how it compares. That's not going to be the quietest option that, we've sampled out. I do want to point that out. However, we do have the Overtrail, so that has the all-terrain tires on the outside. That's going to make a little bit of noise. I can hear a little bit of the tire noise on this. So that's something to keep in mind. If you want the quietest cabin, there are other trim levels that might be a better fit. And now that we're cruising down this neighborhood road, I want to talk about ride quality. So with the LX, you have a standard adaptive variable suspension, and also you have a height adjustable suspension as well. Now, height adjustable is not to be confused with an air suspension. The reason being, it doesn't really positively impact your ride quality. It does adjust the height, but I will just go ahead and say that this LX definitely is one of the worst riding flagships that you can get. It's not overly harsh or anything like that, but you will feel some road imperfections enter into the cabin. It definitely feels a little bit truckish in its overall driving experience. Some of you guys may actually appreciate that element, but it's not as smooth as like an Escalade with an air suspension, that's for sure. Now, to help compensate for that, you do have really supremely comfortable seats, though. Now, you heard us say this was a hybrid, so what about the fuel economy? Well, we're sitting at 19, 22, 20 miles per gallon combined. That is better fuel economy than the regular LX 600. That comes in at 19 mpg. So it's just 1 mpg difference. This hybrid system is certainly not focused on really increasing your fuel economy much. It's more on the performance side of things to give you a little bit of extra capability when it comes to that. But what about our Slam Dunk and Airball? Drew, why don't you kick us off with the Slam Dunk?
I think the Slam Dunk, and the reason why you want to be looking at this vehicle, especially the Overtrail version, is the capability. That's really unique about this product because unlike some key rivals we've mentioned in this video, Escalade, for example, this has so much more capability on board. It can really tackle the rough stuff. Whatever you can throw at this, it's going to be able to handle it because of those bones.
Yeah. Now, on the flip side, our Airball is just going to be the practicality and the sacrifices you make for that off-road capability. The ride quality is one thing. The third row, the cargo space, those are definitely some big sacrifices over the competition that you do pay, for that extra off-road capability. Now, what about pricing? So we start at around $108,000, and prices are up around $1,100 for 2026 model year. Now, this Overtrail 700H is going to start at $115,000, $735. We also do have quite a few options, including that Mark Levinson audio system. 1450 destination, we're sitting at $121,143. And if you're curious as to where this vehicle is assembled, it is in Japan. If you're looking to buy a Lexus LX or any vehicle, we'd like to encourage you to check out carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you should do that is because we have a tool on our website that'll connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool to use if you plan on doing dealership negotiation. You can check all of that out on our website, and there's even things like a monthly payment calculator as well. But what about Lexus Resale, Reliability, and the warranty? First up, let's talk about resale value. Lexus as a brand is rated at 53.83% of estimated retained value after 5 years and 60,000 miles, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 28.16%. Now, it's worth noting that is a very good resale value percentage. It's the very best luxury brand, and it is above average for every vehicle brand that we look at.
Now, the same can also be said about reliability. So we developed the Combined Reliability Index, and when we put in the latest 2026 data, Lexus is the highest rated overall brand and therefore also the highest rated luxury brand.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about all of that, you can find that on our website, carconfections.com. Now, let's talk about your warranty. You have a 4-year, 50,000-mile basic warranty, a 6-year, 70,000-mile powertrain warranty, and 2 service visits are covered complimentary by Lexus. That is a very good warranty for a luxury brand. And guys, that wraps up our in-depth review of the 2026 Lexus LX 700H. If you enjoyed watching this review where we detail some of the 2026 changes, we'd appreciate you subscribing down below and becoming a part of our Car Confections family. If you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support. You make this all possible. And we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.